Hello again, this is us.
Hi.
Alan J. Every time I look at you, I need to make sure I say your name right.
Because you think it's Alan Gay.
Maybe. It rhymes, okay? It's not my fault it rhymes.
Yeah, we've had some technical issues.
Yeah, luckily we didn't speak too much. I'm just like, weird camera.
Yeah.
But it's recording now.
It better be.
It better be. Well, so we were kind of just discussing the fact that we're two different people from two different backgrounds, but equally weird. Or it's not a competition, but we're both weird. So I was raised by Jehovah's Witnesses, which is a very specific type of childhood. You were raised by junkies.
Yes.
Junkies Witnesses. But I think what we have in common, both of us, is that me being Romanian and your parents being junkies, none of us were trusted around wallets, which I think is quite... That's a lovely little thing we have in common. Isn't it? Alan, back me up on this.
Yes. Very true.
Yeah.
I think that's why I loved playing the Tomb Raider games so much, because I saw a lot of Lara and my mum, because her house and my house was just full of other people's stolen shit.
Jeez. Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, I mean, let's get some of the juicy backstory in it again, because it went all over the place there. I'm just gonna keep an eye on the camera now.
Okay, well, take the reins, Daddy.
Cool. Tell me about yourself. Right, so Castle Milk, right?
Yes,
you
I
were
grew
born
up
in Castle Milk.
Good question. Not specifically, but I believe I was taken back there after I was born. I'm just taking that question very literally. Yes, I grew up in Castlemilk, heroin capital of, if not Glasgow, Scotland, or if not Scotland, Glasgow.
And if not Glasgow, then Europe.
Yes, probably. Although I think that's Dundee now.
Is that?
Yeah. Bastards.
Well done,
We're coming back for you. But no, so I grew up surrounded by drugs and addiction. I was severely neglected as a child. It was very not fun. But here I am. My tits are cold, but my comedy's hot. So
it's kind of interesting because we both laughing about our sort of backstory now. But as you said, like in our teens, we both had that period where we would try to shock people with our backstories. And I've had something, on there's been some mental health issues in my family, so I'd tell people about it and just watch their horrified faces of, I'm so sorry. I'd just be like, nah, it's fine.
yeah.
But then you get into your 20s, and that's when you kind of go, oh,
I am not fine. Yeah.
So you start twitching, like, maybe I should have been hugged.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'll hug you after this.
Oh, thank you, Alan. Yes. So yeah, I mean, first and foremost, your backstory is pretty fucking horrific. Like, we're not making light of it that it happened.
Yeah.
But
Every therapist I've been with is like, Alan, see when you hear that, why do you laugh? And I still do it. And I don't know why.
Why do you laugh at your backstory being horrific?
Yeah.
I think it's just you get used to it. It's a coping mechanism at some point. But I think, I was just trying to figure out of like, we kind of gotten used to it. But so the point I'm trying to make is that we're laughing about it now. We find the funny in it, and there's some beauty in it as well in a weird way. Like there's some beautiful moments in it, I guess you could say. Would you agree with that? Like beautiful moments in like just living that life. You found things that you actually enjoyed, and thinking back now, you might be nostalgic about in a weird.
Like the smell of methadone.
Yeah, the smell of methadone specifically. Now this is what I'm talking about, like with the witnesses. But like there's stuff that I'm like, oh, that was nice. But then when you're in it, but when you're out of it, you're like, oh my god, there's horrific brainwashing that should never happen to anyone.
Yeah.
But that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I can't really think of much. No, there wasn't really a lot of nice stuff in my childhood. I mean, when I would go out and play by myself, but that would always get ruined because the other kids were little cunts and would always just come up and start bullying me. So I just kind of found a lot of my solace in just locking myself in my room and playing video games all day, which was nice, and I still use as a comfort mechanism.
There you go. See, thank you. I'm trying to make you sound trying to redeem what was a traumatic experience for you. But the interesting thing was that you mentioned that one of the reasons you didn't end up in the the lifestyle
Was the Bobby?
was
Yes, it was the Bobby.
the fact that discrimination saved your life?
In a way, because what was it I was saying before our camera got cut out? It's still okay, right? Okay, it's
Yeah, we're
good.
still okay.
No, yeah, so I think because I knew that I liked boys from a very young age, I was like...
He likes men now, for the record.
I do, especially this one. So, when I was growing up, I was like, okay, you know, you grow up, everything any kid thinks is negative. You hear all that's gay, or you hear, you know, every day I was hearing, you're a poof, ah. So I was like, okay, I do like boys. I've not told them that, but they seem to know before I did. So I'm never going to fit in with them. Whereas if I didn't like boys and I was straight and I had nothing really separating them from me in terms of like class or sexuality, I think my attitude would have been, okay, I need to do everything to fit in with them that I possibly can. And I don't know if that would have taken me down a path of like smoking or trying to be a wee asshole. Or
Yeah, I mean, that's more of a interesting little mind experiment, I guess, but we can never tell. I'm glad you fucking pulled through and you're still here and going strong. And also, there's something unique about the fact that junkies seem to have great gaydar, even better than yours.
Oh no, that was just the kids.
That was just okay.
Like, oh yeah, their parents weren't addicts or anything like that. They were just cunts.
So hang on, yeah.
Mm.
I'm trying to figure out. So hang on, so are you? So you, was this a community of drug addicts, or was
No.
it?
Like, I mean, growing up in Castlemuck, there was a lot of addiction, but like, obviously my parents knew them and they hung about with them. But no, when I was at school, I don't think anyone else had parents that were really dealing with that.
Mm.
So that's kind of what they saw as different, like, because, you know, they had very fairly normal lives. I didn't, like, my parents would show up to school and they'd be kind of, like, you know, all over the fucking place, or they'd be not really dressed right. And, like, the weird thing is about, like, kids don't really have a sense of empathy, hence I call them little cunts, even if they don't mean it. Like...
I mean, some of them do, though, because you see, like, sometimes kids do the sweetest things to someone. Oh, they're crying here, have a flower.
Like, that's going to fucking help. Fuck off.
They're trying to help you. They're trying to help you, Alan. Jesus Christ.
Right, we love the kids. Not like that.
Not like that.
Yeah,
You say you love the kids. I'm okay with the kids. I respect kids.
yeah, they're fine.
Kids are people,
Like,
too.
my friend has a 9-year-old who I absolutely love. Every other one, give or take. Like, go away.
Fair enough.
I forget what we were talking about.
We're talking about just the community. I was like, the thing that sort of shocked me a little bit, and again, this is like things we have in common, which is I'm a Jehovah's Witness kid going to school and whatnot, and kids were like, you know, friendly and whatever, but it was like, you're a weirdo, but, you know, like it was always there, but no one would ever like step in, and like there was no teacher that would say like, are you okay? Maybe reading the Bible every single day and not being allowed to have friends outside of your group is not the most healthy thing for you.
How do you get bullied as a Jehovah's Witness? Like, did people just play music on their phone? Like, yeah, I bet you wish you could dance, huh? And you just have to be like,
No, I mean, to be honest, well, I've bumped into pals from high school when I was witnessing, trying to, you know, and talk about Jesus and shit. So luckily I haven't been bullied for that. For me, it was more mental health stuff in the family, which I was very aware of, and the kids were aware of as well.
So you get
Yeah,
bullied for your parents having bad mental health?
Yeah, but I don't want to go into that too much just because out of respect for them. But yeah, I've been called a nutter and things like that because of it. Like, you're as crazy as your someone. Again, I don't want to mention the parent just for that.
Again, it isn't a kid's fault that they don't have a lot of empathy, but it is like if a kid sees something different about you that they can target, like they absolutely
Well,
would.
they're not they're doing it specifically to, you know, hurt you. So
Yeah.
in that case, fuck them. But I mean, don't. But you know what I mean.
To assert dominance.
Assert dominance, yeah.
Which is why it's so great now when we see a child being cheeky, because we can just kick them.
Aye. Slap them.
Yeah.
Now you know what I went through.
No way with you.
But I was just surprised, like, because in your case, it's not like teachers you could say, you know, well, it's a religion, that's their faith. They're clearly drug addicts. Was the school trying to help out in any way?
Kind of. I went to 3 primary schools, and then, like, I
At
always...
the same time, what were you doing? You were on that grand hustle culture.
No, the first time was because I got bullied. The second time was because we moved. and did not change. Got rottenly bullied in every one of them. But no, like when I went into school every day, I would be like very dirty, very smelly. My hair would be in an absolute state. My clothes would be old and unwashed, and just so I'd get called a tramp every single day. And honestly, no, not a lot got done about it. Although there was one time in, I think it was primary 7, which is the last year of primary school, where like a teacher came in, she's like, oh hey, I need a volunteer, and it was all this facade because she knew I'd be up for it. Like when she says, I need someone to come out and stop doing work and help me with things, I was like, yes, me. And then I found out that during that hour, the teacher took everyone into like a separate room of my class, and they spoke about me and saying, hey, you have to stop bullying this kid, he's going through so much shit. And then after, like, that lasted for about a week. And then this girl, who was a little bitch, came up to me and she's like, I'm not being cheeky and I don't want to get accused of bullying you, but why do you not know how to clean your ears? And it's like, oh, here we fucking go again. Like, and I thought things had changed. So again, like, there were so many signs that I was a victim of severe fucking child neglect, and these kids were just like, hey, you're disgusting, and then just picked on it. And it's like, all their parents must have known. Like, surely they could have said something like, hey, this kid's got it rough, like, be kind to him. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've got nothing. It's just I was just hoping that maybe there's something in this story. I mean, because look at you now. Look at you now.
Next, I got away from it.
Aye. Fucking got your Ken uniform on, looking like Barbie and Ken at the same time.
No, I'm not as pink as I... Oh, is it the tits? Is that what it is?
I didn't say that, but okay.
I don't know if the camera picks it up, man, but I am perky, and it's not just winter. You have to pay for that.
Mercer's money penny.
Yes. Come see me live if you want to hear my Sean Connery accent and his nemesis against Kitty Fucker.
Oh, Jesus Christ. No! Hey. That's getting fucking edited.
You're awfully short for a dwarf.
Oh. Jesus Christ. This podcast might never make care, but at least we're having fun. But yeah, man, and how in all of this did you discover comedy?
I didn't really know a lot about comedy. Like, obviously I watched TV shows like 8 out of 10 Cats and Mock the Week, but I don't know, I saw I watched a couple of Frankie Boyle specials a few years ago. It was like, that's really funny, but it was never something I get into. Then in 2019, I have a friend who was doing work for Theatre Weekly for The Fringe, and I was his personal assistant, so he got a free ticket. We went, saw a bunch of shows, and like back then I was a very insecure person. I had no academic success, no job prospects, so everything I looked at that I wanted to do, I was like, I could never do that. But then I saw like some stand-up comedians, and not to say they were shit or anything, but like I saw it and I thought, maybe I could do that, because I make people laugh all the time, because drama, you have to laugh at it. And I developed a pretty good sense of humour. I think that's probably the good thing that came out of it, is I did develop a sense of humour about it. And I decided I was going to start going to comedy shows. So I didn't really know a lot about open mics, so the only one I really went to was Red Raw at the Stand. And I went to that a bunch, and after like it was on for a while, I was like, I reckon if I got up there and told some jokes, I could really have this, crowd up and a laugh. So I was going to sign up, but nerves kept getting in the way because they only open the applications like twice a year. Then COVID came along, and I was like, well, fuck. Then signed up in 2022. In the summer, they got me a date for December, and I am up for nights on end, like trying to write the funniest shit imaginable. I haven't slept well on the day. I feel sick, and then 2 hours before the show starts, all my friends have tickets and they get emails saying, yeah, we've had to cancel the show because of a water leak. And on one hand, I'm like, thank fuck, because I was not feeling it. And on the other hand, I was like, oh, damn, well, I've got this set, what do I do with it? And that is when I found out about Jimmy's at Jester's, run by Charlie Wallace. And I tried to sign up for that, but he had an issue with his emails, so went along, had a great time, and I was like, hey, can I get on your comedy night? And we sorted it out for the next time, and yeah, it went so fucking well. Like, I was terrified. Like, I was holding onto the mic stand the entire time, and I noticed the one time I took my hand off to check my notes, my hand was like shaking like fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, and then eventually in April, I did get a date to play The Stand, and I was so happy because like the other two guys were there for the first time who were meant to be on with me in December, and they were like, "Oh yeah, it's my first gig," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is like my 40th now," because I'd just been like going around obsessively doing every gig I could, and then yeah, I went from like 2019 watching people like be hilarious at The Stand to doing it myself. Like I fucking smashed that room. It was fantastic. It was like just a real full circle moment. Like holy shit, I'm actually here. I'm actually doing this. I was just I've done it once since, and I got really good feedback from them the first time. So yeah, it was a really good moment.
We're fucking proud of you, man. We're fucking proud of you.
Thank you.
So that's a lovely little bit. Let's talk about more about your trauma. No, man, it's just like, to me, that's a very different lifestyle. As, again, Jehovah's Witness, not allowed. Friends, not drugs are out of the question. And I'm just trying to understand that. Like, how do you explain it to yourself? Like, that shapes, your first experiences shape your worldview so much.
Oh. How do I explain it to myself?
Like, how did you make sense of it?
It's hard, to be honest. Like I feel like I've more moved on from it than made sense of it. Like the thing is, I'm very angry. Both my parents have passed away. My dad passed away when I was 19. My mum passed away about 4.5 years ago, so they're not here anymore. And as angry as I am, because they should have done a lot better for me, and it's a fucked up feeling to feel like the people who should love me most constantly put drugs before me. Yeah, I've had to, realize that there is also a societal issue where people get into addiction because of their trauma. And my mum and dad had a fuckload of trauma, and that's why they turned to drugs. So on one hand, I have to be like, you're a traumatized person. You were so traumatized that from early ages you turned to substance abuse. But on the other hand, I have to be like, that doesn't excuse the fact that you gave me such a bad start in life. Yeah. And now that I'm like in my 30s, it's all kind of, I feel like it's all kind of catching up to me. Yeah,
I can fucking relate to that, man, because as I said, I've kind of brushed most of it under the rug, but talking about it lately and just thinking about it and things, I was like, oh, you fucked that up too. And and you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And you're like, how the fuck? It's like you have to like check yourself and remind yourself that like, yeah, it's just fucking life, man. Like people try their best, and sometimes their best is less than adequate, like far beyond less than adequate. Yes. But there was something we talked about this. So before we decided to do this pod, we were kind of discussing life and things like that, and that's how this came about from our mental health walks going home after gigs.
I really enjoy them. Because of you, I now reach my half of my step goal before I even go to sleep.
Yes. But you mentioned something interesting about both of your parents, how they were both addicts, but they were very different people.
Yeah. Like, my dad was a very he was a very sensitive guy. Deal with really bad anxiety, really bad depression, would very rarely see him angry. Whereas my mum, very angry a lot of the time. Very like aggressive towards me and everybody else. But again, I think that's the only way she really knew how to cope with the feelings that she had was like to lash out at people. Yeah. Whereas I think my dad was more like I used to be, where I just kind of retreat into myself and not really know how to deal with things. Yeah.
Because I remember one of our walks, you were like, when my dad was a very good person who got addicted to drugs, my mom was a bad person who got addicted to drugs. Yeah. But maybe it's not as clear cut as that. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons, but like the overall feeling was.
I feel like my dad did try to be a good person in spite of his addiction. My mum, sometimes I did see it in her that she did want to be a good person, but it was so strange because I think that's why I'm really fucked up with relationships now, because it was like she would be this very loving person sometimes, like, oh, I love you more than anything in the world, and then the next it'd be like she'd go out, get high, and everyone would be like, oh, she's so great, she's so fun, because in front of them she's just she's on fucking God knows what, just being a laugh. Then she comes back and she sees me, the reminder that she can't live this life anymore, and as a result, she just took more drugs to hide the pain from that, and I got the shit from it. It's also It's also a bit more complicated because when my dad passed away, I hadn't really realised all the shit that they had done when I was growing up. Whereas after my dad passed away, my mum moved back in with me, and then in the next few years ended up getting really back into addiction, and that was when I kind of realised, you know, hold the fuck up, like, you did this all my childhood and now you're doing it again. Like, I feel like she took so much of my life from me, and she's still doing it. But I was at a position where, like, when I was 19, I felt really bad. I felt like I should have helped my dad a lot more before he passed away because of all the injecting. He ended up with liver disease, so that's why he passed away. And I felt like it was my responsibility to take him to his appointments and things like that, which I never did because I was scared. I didn't know how to cope with it. So with my mum, I tried to be the opposite. I was like, okay, I'm going to help you. I'm going to make sure you get through this. And, like, it never worked. Like, there was a period where there's a thing called the crisis centre in town. And if you show up every single day, like, on the dot in the morning, they will let you in because it's like, okay, you clearly want the help. My mum really had to be forced, and we'd often end up there at, like, 5 p.m. She'd be full of drugs, and it would be like, you know, well, you're clearly not as serious about it as the other people who really need to get in here.
Right.
So, like, there would just be days and days where I'd have to, like, take her back on buses, and, like, she'd sit up the back, and I'd obviously be angry, and she'd just shout at me and tell people what a horrible son I was on, like, a full bus. Like, if I had a public humiliation kink, it'd be incestuous with the fucking way that she was acting. Horrible.
Jesus.
It was terrible. And fucking, like, even, like, it always had to be buses. It could not be taxis. Like, because, again, the whole typical thing would come up where, like, oh, this is raging, I'm no paying for that. And if that driver wasn't white, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just be like, oh, no, here we go.
I was gonna ask, this is just a bit of a random question, but we've seen a lot of movies about addiction and things like that.
Not seen a lot of them, actually.
I was just wondering, the ones you've seen, is any of them pissing you off of, like, how inaccurate they are? Or are they fairly accurate? I mean, I'm guessing some more than others.
Honestly, I've not seen a lot of films about it, if I'm honest. Or
I mean,
if I have.
trying to avoid that.
One of them that comes to mind, actually, is Requiem for a Dream.
Yeah.
But I've not seen that for a very long time. And I just remember, I actually loved that film. I think it's a really good portrayal of the absolute hell that drugs can send you in. But again, that's not my experience, that's my parents' experience, so I can only speak from comparing it to what I saw happen to them. Yeah, you don't get a lot of films about the kids who grew up along that. I feel like children of drug addicts are very often forgotten, which sucks. There's not really any support groups out there.
Not just
for
by
people
their
to deal
parents,
with it.
but society also is what you're saying.
Yeah, basically. Like, I volunteered for an organisation that helps, like, the families of addicts. One thing I did was I joined a bereavement group, and they were absolutely lovely people, but all of them were, like, some middle-aged or older women who tend to lost their kids to addiction. And that's a very different kind of grief, because to them it's like, I'm the parent I was supposed to protect you,
and there's
I
guilt
lost
involved
you.
and things like that.
Whereas for me it's like, you were the parent, you were supposed to fucking look after me, and you kept going back to these drugs, and you're dead because of it. Where does that leave me? So their grief is very much like love and sadness, whereas for me there is some of that, but there's also a lot of anger there as well. And, like, I stopped going to it for a few months because it moved to evenings and I was doing comedy. But I went back recently, and it's good to see a lot more people are there, because I really love the people that do go to that group. They really need the help, but it's like, this is a very loving, supportive group where everyone's grieving, and I just kind of feel like it's not really, it doesn't match up with my kind of grief, so I don't know if I'll go back. But, like, again, I don't know.
You're more Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, pretty much Rage Against the Machine. Always need to get a shit pun in a podcast.
Well, we haven't mentioned the fucking human centipede yet.
Oh, you've just ruined it.
Did I? Yeah. Where do you think your obsession with the human centipede comes from, Alan?
Well, you've probably noticed this from my act, but I tend to enjoy grossing people out.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
I'm not sure. Also, it just kind of became a thing with Dean because we have a horror film podcast called Blood, Sweat and Fears.
Indeed.
And yeah, it just became an in-joke that I'd mentioned the Human Centipede every single episode. Because I just, when I was young, like in my teens, I went through a phase of loving those like really fucked up horror films that grossed everyone out. And yeah, I remember watching the Human Centipede Part 2, especially uncensored. Which I read a story about. I think it was Paisley. They showed it in the cinema because it had a very limited release, and someone shat in the cinema. Yeah, I mean, another thing is I volunteer at the Glasgow Film Theatre. I've been doing that for about a year odds now, and the worst thing I've heard is that someone found like a pair of dentures at the back of a seat. No one has shat there, thankfully.
I mean, I don't want to know what they were doing.
Yeah, well, it was the Human Centipede Part 2, man.
Was it Human Centipede? They found a pair of dentures. Okay.
No. In the GFT, I don't know what the film was. They found dentures. And Paisley, I think someone shat in the cinema for a screening of the Human Centipede 2.
I'm just thinking about the dentures. Someone just going, wait till you get a load of this.
Oh God, I've never found anything fun in there. I did. There was a woman who came in looking for her phone, and it fell down like a wee pocket of the seat, and I got it, and she was like, "Oh, thank you." Then she saw it, and she realised that the seat had crushed it, and like it was bent at the top, and the screen was all smashed, and she just kind of sat there for like half an hour, like, "Oh,
my phone."
Yeah, like we can't really help you with that. Sorry.
Yeah,
Bye.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
Oof. I'm just like trying to be very sensitive to this topic that we like decided to talk about, but also I'm like, but the content, but but now I'm just trying to like, because you're fucking hilarious, man. You're my bro.
Oh, thank you.
Trying to think of all the different, like, how does a kid deal with that?
Playing a lot of video games.
Like, so for me, like, I lived in a different world, you know. We had different lore, everything, like we had our own history and geography as Jehovah's Witnesses. So that was for me, my teenage years was a period of there's an actual real world, okay, cool, like figuring that out, and then sort of slowly disassociating like mentally from it, and just like realizing there's a life outside of it. But you're, being that as a kid where your parents are both fucked, like how do you just try to sort of escape from it, or
like when I was a kid? It's hard to say. I think it was a weird effect because I got bullied so much because of my parents and because they were supposed to be my caretakers. It just kind of got me closer to them and made me love them more. And it was like, you know, I want to protect you. You know, like people shouldn't be making fun of you. Like I did love my mom, and I still do. But like, yeah, back then it was just like it hurt to hear like the woman. Like my parents broke up when I was very young, by the way. So like my dad didn't live with us, and I didn't see him for a couple of years, which we'll get into. But yeah, so I lived only with my mom. She was a single parent, and yeah, just hearing all the bad things people said about her was just really hurtful to me. And so like, yeah, it made me more kind of protective and more loving of her. Yeah, like God, like it was really bad. Like even the teacher did. Like one of my, you know how when you grow up and you look back on your experience as a kid and you're like, that was so fucking wrong. I wish I could have known what I know now and could have said something.
Or just punch someone in the fucking face.
Yeah, exactly. Well, actually, this woman, someone did. My old head teacher, when I was in primary 7, did get punched by someone's mother. And I was not there for that, but I was there for the following sports day where she had to walk around with 2 police escorts. And I kept thinking, I hope someone goes for it again.
What did she do?
She was a cunt. She took me, I was 10, I think. I was in the office and she was telling me things like, "Oh, Alan, your mum really needs to get her act together." And her example for this was, I mean, look at you. Like,
wow.
Yeah, like.
Fuck it. Let's just get the baseball bats and the camera. And
yeah, honestly.
Batter someone. Like, sorry. No.
No, fuck her. I mean, she's probably dead, hopefully, but. No, like I like just looking back at things like that, it's like, what the fuck were you thinking? Like, and she was really bad. Like, we had a full assembly with a full school there one day, and something about adoption came up, And then she mentioned this one kid, and she's like, "Oh, he's adopted, and his parents are very nice." And this kid just starts crying in the middle of an assembly. It's like, you probably shouldn't have done that.
Did the kid know they're adopted?
Oh yeah, he knew.
I'm sorry, I'm just like... Just imagine, like, fucking... getting outed by the Sorting Hat, like... Gryffindor! Like, Slytherin! Adopted! Like, what the fuck? Okay. Well, he knows now. Wow.
But yeah, she was a cunt. That was the point of that story.
And, you know, many amongst you are gay. Alan is gay. He's alright. Just imagine that conversation.
Well, Sorting Hat, homosexual.
Oh wow! Imagine instead of that, just the Sorting Hat is just telling everyone your pronouns. Just, I don't know. Just be.
They, them, expelled.
I know. It's serious stuff, but at the same time, I'm just like trying to think of weird shit the fucking Sorting Hat could say. Yeah, man. So, I'm guessing the community was not prepared for dealing with this at all.
No, not really.
Oof.
Again, I didn't really feel much community. Like, I knew some people, but most of the people I knew were just like other drug addicts that would hang about with my parents, and I didn't really have any friends. And any I did.
So who was the most fun drug addict? Like, come on. There's got to be someone you're like,
There was one I really liked because I think she really liked speed. And so she was just all like, "Oh, hi, how you doing? Oh, you doing good? Oh, that's great." And I remember one time, like, again, I was like 12, and I thought, "Oh, she's really fun." And she was like, "Oh, hi, Alan." My dad was up, and she's like, "Oh, hi, big Alan. Do you want to come a walk with me?" And my dad did not want to. And I went, "Oh, yeah, that'd be great." Then we ended up walking with her, and then my dad just gave me a look like, "What the fuck did you say that for?" So she was fun. I liked her.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm just mining for like some sort of relatable, positive feeling in this whole story.
Well, there's not a lot. I think the positivity mostly comes from getting away from it.
Well, you're a positive element in this story. Look at
Aww.
you. Aye? Aye? Come on, bro. Yeah, man, it's sometimes life fucks you sideways without you realizing it. For me, it's been a journey of fucking self-discovery, of trying to figure out who I am as a person after it.
Yeah.
And again, not the same thing, fairly different. And I don't want to disrespect your experience or make too much fun of the witnesses, but there's some fucking overlaps, you know, of just either not setting you up for life at all or setting you on a completely different path.
Yeah.
And then you're just going, "Oh wow,
Yeah.
all of it is bullshit."
Yeah. Yeah, that is quite relatable, I suppose, because it's just kind of like coming out of this black hole and being like, "Holy fuck." Like, I don't think a lot of people really appreciate, like, growing up and just having your basic needs met, because you kind of take it for granted. Like, you know, all the other kids I knew, most people I knew growing up, you know, they were still, you know, fed, they were still washed, they weren't, like, you know, worried, you know, about when they were going to eat next.
Oh god.
Whereas for me, that was often an issue. Yeah, sadly, eating wasn't really a massive issue. Like, although there was one time where, like, we had a power cut at, like, Christmas, and, like, for 3 days we just had, like, Rice Krispies and water. Not at the same time, we're not savages, but, like, we were just gonna eat the Rice Krispies and drink water.
Wow.
Yeah, not fun.
Okay.
But hey, in fact, I think it was either the Jehovah's Witnesses or the Mormons. I'm sorry, I don't remember, like, which ones it was.
They're not that different from each other. They're all got weird. Well, they don't have weird hats, but they all
No.
have weird fucking beliefs.
Oh.
Sorry, not discriminating, but your beliefs are very different to what's considered the norm.
They brought us candles, so thank you.
Was it depression candle?
No, we couldn't afford them.
Ah, fair enough. Not even with the discount codes. Oh, shout out to Darren Connell. But wow. I mean, again, it's just such a mess of a topic, and I feel very self-conscious about not just like stepping all over your feelings about it.
That's fine. If anything is too much, I'll tell you and we can cut it.
Okay.
Don't worry about it.
Okay. So poppers, yay or no?
Again, like a symptom of me growing up around that was that I was scared to take anything. But I did try them about a year ago, and they're all right.
Okay.
Like, they're fine. They give you a wee head rush. That's about it.
Okay.
I bought a strong pack in Manchester, like a strong wee bottle, and I thought I left it there, and like some wee maid was going to be like having the time of her life with her arsehole just gaping. But then I found them. So, no.
Just imagine going into your hotel room and it's just a maid just. You okay? I don't know what's happening right now.
Oh, they're not that good. Have you ever tried them?
No.
Oh,
I haven't.
They're all right.
Okay.
If you're bottoming, they're pretty helpful. Of course, my like concern, like you're watching porn and someone's just getting railed, and then they're opening this wee bottle of like very like high like chemical fluids, and you just where they're going like, "Ah!" That's what scares me.
Right. Okay.
Bottom gently.
Bottom responsibly.
Mm.
This is the responsible podcast. Yes. I mean, again, I just keep coming back to the stories you've told me. Walking home, and I'm just like, what the fuck? What's the wildest thing you've seen your parents do?
Oh Jesus. Oh. It's really hard to remember, really. God. I can't really remember anything wild. Like, God, I had one in my head there. Like, there was a thing when I was like, I think I was 4 or 5, and the kitchen door would always get stuck. And my mum was in there, and I was like, where's mommy? Where's mommy? My dad was like, oh, Alan, your mum's stuck in the kitchen. We're going to have to get the door people out to fix it. And I was like, no, I know how to open this door. I'm big and strong. So I just went boof and I opened the door. And there was mummy with a shoelace around her knee and a needle hanging out her arm. But of course I was a kid. I thought that was normal. So I was just like, I help mummy. And then you look back on it and you're like, wow, there is no good memory that has not been tainted.
Wow. See, this is a comedy podcast, but I'm like, where do you even joke about what's the funny angle? Like,
I don't know, man. Most of my stuff is cum jokes.
Yeah.
Or just like, it's weird. Like after I do my set and like so I've been going. This is September. I've been doing comedy for about 9 months now. That's a pregnancy, and a lot of my stuff has been mostly dirty humor.
Yeah.
Don't know why, but also I do some jokes about my background, and they're quite dark.
Yeah.
But like, I've kind of.
Is anybody surprised?
But like, I've been kind of trying to go more into my backstory because I find that the dirtier stuff doesn't always work with people, and so I'm trying to kind of tell more about my backstory and kind of build up that emotional connection with the audience, let them get to know me a wee bit more before I go into that, hoping they'll be more comfortable with it. So that's kind of where I am with it just now. But the humour in it, it's such a unique story I've not heard anyone else do. Like, I find that most people who grow up in that kind of thing, they usually write books, they don't do stand-up comedy.
You're like the Eminem of the fuck you, Debbie!
Just stealing from all the black comics. I mean, I've stole Claude's seat.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually Claude. This is all just flour and a wig.
You
may have to cut that back.
Nah, Claude will love it. Claude will fucking love it.
Yeah, we love Claude.
Yes, we do. He will be back soon. Hopefully. He will be back soon. It's not
you don't sound sure.
Nah, he will be back soon. Nah, because we're in contact. He's just finished working on stuff. I don't know how much of that he wants to talk about, so I'm not going to mention what he was working on. But, yeah. He's back. But, yes, exactly. Okay, again, like, is there anything you want to tell? Like, I'm kind of curious. after all this, how do you feel about legalizing drugs? Do you think that would have helped any of this? Was there like, did the community's sort of fucking fear and the stigma, did any of that help or hinder your cause?
I don't know. Legalization, I'm not sure. Like legalize it. Like there are different degrees. Like legalize weed, I think that's totally fine. You know, poppers is fine. I mean, you can buy them fucking everywhere because you just call it a VHS cleaner.
I mean, they're not legal, but they're legal. You know, there's coke in the parliament.
True. Again, that's like hypocrisy. Like all the fucking people who are in charge of these laws are all sniffing coke off of like a hooker's ass crack.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, but you know,
Crack of a crack.
like, when I was volunteering with the Family Addiction Support Services, one thing that I found out was that you would have your Narcotics Anonymous. You know, that's for your, you know, all your dirty junkies who are shooting up in alleys. But then you would have Cocaine Anonymous. That's for the respectable people who are just trying to get by in life. Like, you know, but they don't want to be seen with the dirty drug addicts. No, not at all. And it's like,
So would you say there's, I mean, obviously there's levels to this, but what are like, so you got your cocaine people, you've got your crack people, you've got your heroin people. I'm trying to think, what are the different stigmas, the different, like, oh, we don't associate with them, they're on LSD. I mean, yeah, LSD's kind of the hippie drug, right?
the LSD's for hippies. I think heroin's probably seen as the most kind of like lowest end of the ladder one. And then, you know, cocaine is for your kind of like party people and your...
Cocaine is for the people who are about to tell you about your fucking great investment opportunity. Like, bro, I'm telling you, you gotta buy now before it goes high. Dogecoin to the moon, motherfucker.
Man, again, drugs just terrify me, like almost any kind of them. It's like, I mean, I've got enough health problems as it is. Like, I'd be scared that something would go wrong and I'd be freaking out. And like, it's very important for me to have my wits about me.
Fair.
That's why if like I have done something like get stoned, it would always be if I was like at home.
Oh yeah, you never told me you visited
Norwegian.
Qatar.
Oh.
Qatar.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
You said about being stoned, so you know. I'm sorry.
Ooh. Decriminalisation?
Yeah, let's go back to that.
Don't know if I would support decriminalisation. No, I wouldn't support legalisation. I would support decriminalisation. I think putting someone in jail for having an addiction is fucking stupid. It's so archaic. Like, I can't remember what country it was in. I don't know if it was Portugal.
They've decriminalised a lot of it.
It might have been Portugal, where like they decriminalised it, and instead of treating them as criminals, they treated it as a health issue, and they started like rehabilitating them properly, and like they saw far better recovery among people than, you know, tossing someone in jail for. Again, it's just it's fucked up because I see addiction largely as a societal failing, less of a personal failing. So I think it's a very unhealthy society that leaves someone in a position where they are drawn to addiction and then punishes them for having that addiction. I think that's fucked up.
I mean, yeah, it's not, when you put it like that, it's kind of hard to be like, well, just say no, kids.
Yeah. Like, I mean, it's easy to say, oh, just say no to peer pressure, but like, I mean, I saw this is very dark, but I saw this documentary where this woman, I think it was Ross Kemp, was talking about how she got into drugs, and he was like, oh, what happened? She was like, oh, it was my boyfriend that got me into them, and then she revealed that he was like 18 and she was 9. So obviously that was not a boyfriend. You were being sexually abused, and he made you take drugs. But again, like, drugs, they leave you in this position where you can't emotionally mature. So like, throughout your whole life, you'll believe something like that, and you won't see that you've been through this horrible shit because you just keep numbing the pain with drugs, and you can't face the horrible things that actually happen to you.
Yeah. I mean, you had, again, because we're talking about sort of legalization and potentially sort of beating the malaise, as it were. You've seen people that wanted to leave it and couldn't, but you've also seen people that didn't. Do you think, like, how can you tell who's who?
What do you mean?
You said there was, the way I understood it was like, your dad was trying to get off it, was your mum was not really motivated by that?
They kind of were like.
What's is there a threshold at which you say they've just gone too far and we just, unless they want to come back, we can't bring them back?
I think that was the hard thing about my mum. Like, I kind of when she got back into addiction when I was in like my mid-20s, I was doing everything to help her and nothing was working, and I very, not quickly, but after a while, I realised that if she wasn't going to stop the drugs for me when I was a little baby who really needed her, she's not going to do it when I'm a grown adult. And I just, so much was going on. We were getting in all these arguments because I kept trying to help her and she wasn't having any of it, and I just had all this rage come out from like 25 years of like shit that she'd put me through, and just she was refusing any help. And I realised eventually that some people, I think this is from BoJack Horseman, but there was a really good metaphor where if you're a lifeguard and someone is drowning but they don't want to come up, you either get sunk to the bottom with them or you can just get yourself back up there. And so when I was 25, I think, I made the decision that I wanted to get out of there, because it got to a really bad point where
this is where it got to a bad point.
Well, it got to a breaking point, I think, for me, was when I realised she wasn't going to get help. The crisis centre that I spoke about, she was there for 3 weeks, stayed clean for less than a week, and like again, she was being very nice, very kind, and like I was like, okay, things are going to be okay now. And then she went out for a walk. I was like, she never goes out for a walk. And then she came back, and half an hour later she's just kind of lying like that, and I'm like, oh, okay. And that was just kind of like the kind of moment I just felt like myself break, and I was like, you know, just that moment of like, what the fuck do I do? Like, everything I've done is for nothing.
Well, no, because you can say that you fucking tried.
Yeah.
You don't have any questions. You don't look back on, what if I try this? What if I had tried that?
True. But I wish someone told me from a young age, like, it's not your responsibility to look after them. They're supposed to look after you. Which is weird, because the social work were all very heavily involved with me for a while. And, like, the weird thing is, I was a very fucked up child. One thing I got caught doing was looking at porn in the library with someone else, and we were like, haha, boobs. And, like, I thought that's why the social work were involved. And also, because I was getting bullied a lot, they would often like make up things about me and say, oh, we're not calling him a poof, he's calling everybody else poofs and prostitutes. And they would believe it because everyone in the class would back them up because they were the popular kids, and they didn't want to, oh no, I don't want to defend Alan. So yeah, I felt for a long time that the social work were involved in my life, and it was my fault, and it wasn't because my parents were addicts, which really sucks, because I really wish someone had told me that. Where was I going with this?
God, I was just listening there, but we were just kind of discussing your parents, trying to...
Oh, yeah. So it got to the point where I realised my mom was not going to get off the drugs, and there were 2 instances. One of them was when... she stole a key ring from me that was my dad's, which was, like... It got to a point where she kept taking things from my room, and I had to put a lock on my door. And then she just broke it one day, and I was like, should have saw that coming. Wow. You have to laugh. Yeah, but then like there was this really dangerous drug dealer, and she was like, just things like, Alan, don't let him see you. And I was like, how will he hurt me? And she's like, no, but don't let him see you. And I was like, okay, it sounds like he might hurt me, because no one's gonna hurt her. She was like 50, and she was like this 4'8" woman. Like, no one's gonna touch you, like, if you fuck up. But then like her drug dealer friends started coming to like the door, and she was bringing them in the house, and they would like, this guy came up and he was like, oh, I'm your ma's pal, I met her, you know, and such, and it's like, I know why you're here. Like, I turned to my mum one time and I was like, do I look like I'm fucking buttoned up the bag? Do you think I don't know that he's here to sell you drugs? And oh my god, she was pissed. Like, this guy just went outside and it was so awkward, and she was so raging. I was like, but he obviously is. Like, and it was just like, I did get to a point where I was pleading with her. I was like, look, you're going to take drugs. I know you're going to take drugs. Can you at least not invite dangerous drug dealers and other addicts into the house? And secondly, if I'm going to have to stay in here all the time to make sure you don't die, can you at least, do me the courtesy of telling me that you're about to take something? Then I can make sure I'm in it and I'm ready for it, and I'm not just, suddenly getting it like sprung on me that you're ODing. Because like over like a year or two, I had to take her to the hospital so many times. Like it was fucking terrible. But yeah, drug dealers started coming up to the flat, and that's when I was like, holy fuck, I have to get out of here. Like I wasn't prepared for the world, so I didn't know about moving out or anything like that. For most of my life, if I've not been in education, I've mostly been on benefits, because again, the thought of being in like full-time employment terrified me, because I never felt like a proper person who could function in society, and that's what I'm kind of going towards now.
Well done, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll get into that in a wee bit if we have time. But yeah, so I made some moves. I got myself a council house, which surprisingly did not take that long. Because I explained my situation to them. I got my own wee flat on the other side of the city, and I'd see her for maybe once a month to get the money for the internet. And then I remember like I was gonna stay with her at Christmas, but I went up on Christmas Eve. She was full of drugs. She was with another one of her friends who again was full of drugs, and I was in the taxi with both of them, and this woman's just like, you need to go see your ma, that's terrible what you're doing to her. And I was like, okay, that's great, thank you. And like the taxi driver just there, and I'm like, I'm embarrassed. So I did not stay with her.
So that was that a white or a brown Christmas?
What the fuck is a brown Christmas? Is it like 2 girls, 1 cup? Oh, right, heroin. I should have known. But see, my mind always goes to the dirty stuff.
I know. 2 girls, 1 cup. No.
Oh, that's disgusting,
See,
man.
that's what,
2
yeah,
girls.
I know. Exactly. A cup?
Yeah, so I've been living alone since then.
Right. So that was, so basically your survival was, as a kid, as a kid was trying to sort of disassociate and trying to sort of have your own space.
Yeah, I played a lot of video games.
Yeah, so escape that way.
Yeah.
And once you could physically get away, you just
once I think I was 20. It was 26, I think, when I got my own house. No, 25. Yeah, I was 25. I'm 30 now, so it's been about 5 years. Yeah.
Fuck, we're the same age.
No, I'm 30. You're 29.
Yeah, but we're not that far apart. We would have been in the same school.
Oh. Well, I didn't really go to school.
Yeah, but when you did.
Yeah. I went to a special school for a few years, which conjures a certain image in people's heads, but this was a school for people who didn't fit in, and truants, as we were called, which makes it sound like you're dogging it, but that wasn't the reason I did it. I did it because I was bullied, and because I was being neglected.
But you're dogging now.
Funnily enough, never something I've done. But I do know someone that did do it recently and came in the Clyde. So yeah, like Genghis Khan, there's a little bit of him in all of us.
Oh God. That doesn't go into the tap water, does it?
I hope not.
I fucking hope not.
'Cause I drink a lot of it. Also, maybe it is. Maybe that's why I like it. There you go.
Anyway, back to you.
Come back to you, Alan.
Yes, pretty much. But I'm trying to think. So you kind of, we kind of discussed how you got off, how you got away, slowly but surely. I mean, again, we just vaguely touched upon it because I feel very odd just probing into your life.
It's fine.
But we decided to have this chat. So
I've always said, if I ever find any kind of success, not that I think I'm fucking famous now or anything, but like, I know some people want to keep a bit of mystique about them, but for me, I think it's important to tell stories like this because I want people to know that
it's possible. Yeah,
kids, who grew up with the shit I did exist, and they can overcome that trauma. So it's important for me to talk about it. So.
No, that's fair enough, man. I mean, I'm gonna say the annoying thing. You're an inspiration.
Well, thank you.
Right. Okay. So what are the dreams and hopes now? Now that you're finally on your own feet, you've got some self-esteem.
Well, so honestly, I've not really started working on myself until like a year odds ago. I was in this kind of on and off relationship for 5 years with someone who's still a good friend, but he kind of forced me into therapy when I really didn't want it. But getting it was like the best thing ever, because just talking to her for like 10 weeks kind of made me realise that Like I always wrote off education. And I just thought, okay, that's not for me. I just thought I was maybe not stupid, but I just thought education, that's not for someone like me. That's, you know, for people who came from middle class backgrounds whose parents have money. But then through therapy and realizing that actually I can do whatever I want with my life because I'm just as capable as anyone else, I started going to like university open days. I started thinking, you know, I don't want to be on benefits for the rest of my life. I don't want to sit in playing video games all the time, just, you know, wasting away, you know, being really unhappy with my weight, not doing anything. So I
was this when you discovered The Secret? No?
It does sound like I'm about to put on like a multi-level marketing like inspiration pill or something.
I'm just kidding. It was just part of me had to get a joke in there, but
all right, so break up the
no, it was like limiting beliefs. Let's go. But like, yeah, well done you.
Yeah, I went to some open days and I had a thought to myself. I was like, if I wake up tomorrow and I'm like an old man and I'm on my deathbed, what would be my biggest regret in life? And I've never travelled, so I only got my first passport this year, and I've not used it yet. Cause I've never been outside this. Even when I was growing up, my family were like, "Oh, get my passport. We'll take him to, you know, Spain or wherever they were going." And she was just like, "Nah." So I've never seen the world, and I feel very. I can't really think of the word, but I feel like I've lost out by not seeing the world. So I kind of looked at what are jobs that would let me travel, and I thought I could do something with a good wage, like, I don't know, software engineering, where I'd have a lot of money and be able to go holidays, but something like that's never really been something I'd like. I've never been a sciencey person. So I started looking at like teaching English as a foreign language, looked at places I would like to travel, and Taiwan would be perfect. Please, China, be nice. Don't fuck this up for me.
Let's
so,
get it.
So yeah, I just started my classes a week and a half ago. I'm doing a foundation year, and then if I get at least 2 Bs, I can go on and do a proper undergraduate degree in English for 4 years, which is, I've got to be honest, being in education for the first time in 8 years, when before I just like drop out or like do kind of at least average at best, is fucking terrifying, especially at uni, because college is like, you have to do this, you have to do that, this is what you have to learn, whereas at uni it's like you have to do this yourself, and so it just kind of feels a bit overwhelming right now. But it also feels good that I'm trying.
Yes,
I know what I'm doing. Also, just
there's a lot of firsts for you right now.
Yeah, comedy has been fucking incredible for my confidence. Like to go from like being terrified of like just being in front of people, because I think, oh, they'd be thinking terrible things about me, like, oh, they're thinking, oh, he's fat or whatever like that, and to just getting on stage and saying jokes that I've written and making lots of people like just lose it with laughter, that's been incredible. Like one thing, the really fucking thing that I was happy with this year was in March I entered So You Think You're Funny, and I did not progress at all, and then I sent the BBC New Comedy Awards my like 5-minute set, and from 1,200 applications I got into the top 100 and got like to do the showcase at the Edinburgh Fringe. Did not get to the semi-finals, but the fact that I was 7 months into comedy when I was doing that, when like people who end up going to the semis have been at it for at least a few years, that was fucking mad. And just the fact that, you know, I have a podcast now and that I'm on this one, and like I was saying to you the other night, I had this fucking mad moment where I was thinking of like one of my favourite comedy nights, the Diversity Quota at the University of Glasgow, run by Elliot Simpson. I saw Dean there a few years ago, my podcast co-host, and I saw you there a few years ago, which you were surprised at.
Yeah, I had no idea you were in the audience.
Oh God, I don't know if I should say this, but I remember because I thought you were really good, and there was another guy who I thought wasn't really good, and you were talking to each other, and I heard him being like, "Oh, I wasn't at my best tonight," and you were like, "Oh, neither was I," and I really wanted to be like, "Oh no, man, you were really good," but I didn't want to do it in front of him because I would be lying. So, but you were really good.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah, I remember that gig, and I wasn't my best that night. I could feel my fucking anxiety going up and down, but I did my set. I did my time.
Yeah, just these mad moments where like I see people like you and Dean, who I saw fucking at least in 2021, and now like, you know, me and Dean have a podcast together. We go on big walks late at night. You come to my house and we do writing, and I almost make you puke with some jokes. It's just kind of mad. It's mad to like just kind of take a seat back and look at that, you know.
And I tend to get my revenge by
farting.
I was
He
gonna
farts
be,
a lot.
I was gonna be
All the
nice.
time.
No, that's not true. Only in his place. I save it for Alan.
Yeah. That's okay, I get to sniff the Cuson after you leave.
I always have a friend who knows how to make you feel awkward. That's the joy of life. But I'm proud of you, brother. Like, you've come a long fucking
That's
way.
sort of you from the witnesses.
Yeah, I mean, I have, but yeah, I have.
Yeah.
No ifs and buts, but you know, I just like, to me that's normal.
Mm.
I know how to deal with that. I dealt with it. But hearing somebody else is like, I wouldn't know. Like, wouldn't know where to begin to deal with that. Do you know what I mean? So, I guess there's that. If life throws you fucking shit, chances are if you just stick at it long enough, you can figure out how to get away from it. And
When life
Get
gives
through
you
it.
drug addicted parents, just
Make-
wait until they die.
yeah,
That was meant to be funny. That was maybe a bit morbid.
make lemonade, you guys. Make
Not me, I'm
lemonade.
diabetic.
Make sugar-free lemonade.
Probably shit.
Probably.
Drink water.
Yeah, exactly. You know
Water's
what we
good
got
for you.
in this podcast. We believe in the simple things. Water.
And cum.
Yeah, and on that note, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, guys. Feel free to follow me at Alan J Comedy, and I also have the Blood, Sweat and Fears podcast. And follow him on everything else as well. He's lovely.
Follow him because he's a fucking legend.